Exponents, Part 6. In today's lesson, students will learn that when you divide exponents, you subtract. You do what? When you divide exponents, you subtract. Very good. So it's important to know opposites. So what is the opposite of multiplication? Division. Very good. And what is the opposite of addition? Subtraction. Right. So it makes sense that when you divide exponents, you're going to subtract. What did I say? When you divide exponents, you're going to subtract. So we're going to go ahead and fill in the blanks together. Read it with me. Okay, it says when, we're going to write the word dividing. Okay. When dividing exponents, what do? Subtract. Subtract the bottom from the top. Okay. You're going to basically subtract the bottom from the top. And you're going to bring, remember if it's negative and up, bring it down. So you're going to bring down the exponent if the exponent is what? If it's negative and up, bring it down. So if it's negative, okay? When dividing exponents, subtract the bottom from the top, bring down if the exponent is negative. Okay, so pretty simple, right? So you take a look at x to the 7th divided by x to the 3rd. Now let me first of all explain, how do you do this by expanding? Well, what is x to the 7th power? Isn't it x times x times x times x times x times x times x? 7 x's, right? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And x to the 3rd power is how many x's, my friends? 1, 2, 3. All right. So when you have x divided by x, remember, any number divided by itself or any variable divided by itself is 1. So you could cross off however many x's are at the bottom as there are at the top. So this is going to be 1, 1, and 1. And how many x's are you left with, my friends? How many x's? You're left with 4. So isn't that the same? I say, okay, I'm going to bring the bottom to the top. And what is that exponent at the bottom? It's 3. What if I say, what is x to the 7th minus 3? What is x to the 7th minus 3? 7 minus 3 is 4. So the answer that's left at the top is x to the 4th. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. So let's try the next example. Now the next example is not so easy because you have x squared, which means x times x twice. And at the bottom, you have x to the 5th power, which is 5 x's and being multiplied together. All right. How many x's will simplify to 1, or we call it cancel to 1? Okay? You can cross off a pair of x's. So this is 1 and 1, okay, because x divided by x is 1. And how many x's are you left with at the bottom now? At the bottom, okay, you are left with what? You're left with x to the power of what? You're left with x to the power of 3. Now, if you expand it, it's already left in the answer form that you want, which is 1 at the top, because there's nothing at the top, over x to the power of 3. Now, that is what you want. However, if you are just going to subtract, right, when dividing exponents, just subtract the bottom from the top. Well, that means I'm going to take this exponent here, which is x to the 5th. I'll move it to the top, but I'm going to subtract 5. So then you have to think, well, what is 2 take away 5? 2 take away 5, well, they're different signs. That's a positive 2 and a negative 5. So positive 2 and negative 5, different signs, subtract. So what's 5 take away 2? It's 3. But the bigger sign is negative. So if you were to use the shortcut of just subtraction, you would get x to the power of negative 3, okay? Now, does x to the power of negative 3 and 1 over x to the power of 3, are they the same? Are they the same? Okay, because if you're saying no, that means that you didn't learn anything from last week. So they are the same. You know, if it's negative and up, bring it down, and it will be equal to 1 over x to the power of positive 3. Okay, so you have these two options. You either, well, we're going to do both. We're going to be expanding and we're also going to be subtracting. So now we're going to do some examples of dividing exponents. What are we doing? We are dividing exponents. Okay, so we're going to practice expanding, okay, and crossing out, which means you're simplifying to 1 whenever you see an x on the top and an x on the bottom. Okay, they cancel to 1. So let's take a look at the first one, all right? So you have x to the 6th power divided by x to the 2nd power. All right, so that's going to be x, 6 x's at the top being multiplied together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to be dividing it by 2 x's at the bottom being multiplied together. So again, whenever you see x on the top and x on the bottom, they make 1, okay? X on the top and x on the bottom, they make 1. And how many x's are you left with? X to the power of what? X to the power of 4. Now, if I were to subtract, okay, if I were to just subtract, I would take x to the power of 2, okay, and I would subtract it from this one at the top. So I would say 6 take away 2. What is 6 take away 2? Isn't it 4? It is 4. So the answer at the top is x to the power of 4. Do you have to move this down at all? Is that a negative exponent? Is it? No. Okay. So you do not have to move it down or rewrite it as a fraction. Okay. And simplified is x to the power of 4. All right. So that's the answer. It's pretty easy, right? I know. Let's take a look at this one. It says x to the power of 4 divided by. This symbol is a fraction bar, and it means divided by. Divided by x to the power of 4. So we're going to have how many x's at the top? How many? We're going to have 4. And how many x's at the bottom? We're going to have 4. Very nice. All right. So x divided by x is 1. X divided by x is 1, 1, and 1. So what is the answer, my friends? Okay, it's 1. Isn't it 1? Okay, so I know the answer is 1. However, how do I figure this out by just using the rule that when you divide exponents, you subtract. You do what? When you divide exponents, because this is the division bar, you subtract, okay? With Mr. Coach right now. When you divide exponents, you have to subtract, okay? All right. So if I subtracted this from the top, okay, I would just take the exponents and say, all right, what is 4 take away 4? Okay, 4 take away 4 is what? What is it? Isn't it 0? So if you subtract, isn't this x to the power of 4 take away 4? 4 take away 4 is 0. What is it, Marissa? 4 take away 4 is 0. So it's x to the power of 0. Now, any number to the power of 0 is 1. Repeat after me. Any number to the power of 0 is 1, or any letter. Okay? So x to the power of 0 is 1, and we do not have to move it down because 0 is not negative. It's also not positive. Okay. Okay. In the next two examples, what do you notice about the exponents? Is the exponent at the top smaller than the one at the bottom? Is it? Is 2 smaller than 6? Yes or no? Yes. Is 3 smaller than 4? Yes. So with these now, when you subtract them, if you subtracted the bottom from the top, okay, the bottom from the top, you're going to get negative numbers. Now, I'll show you both ways. Let's expand this out. Expand and cross out, right? You're going to make them 1. So x squared is x times x divided by x to the 6th power. How many x's? 6. How many x's? 6. You say x times x times x times x times x times x. Okay, I'm going to rewrite that really quick. Okay, how many x's at the top? 2. So you're going to say x times x. And how many at the bottom? 6. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and they're all being multiplied together. Okay, so whenever you see an x on the top and an x on the bottom, x divided by x is 1, and x divided by x is 1. And how many are you left with at the bottom? Okay. Aren't you left with 4 x's at the bottom? Yes. So now listen. When you simplify this, what's at the top? Nothing, right? But do you write 0? No, because there's actually an invisible 1 at the top. Yeah, and you can actually see that these are 1. So when you simplify it, this is 1 at the top divided by x to the power of what? X to the power of 4. Okay, so how do you get this answer without expanding? By just using the subtraction rule, that when you divide exponents, you subtract, okay? Well, we're going to say, okay, I'm going to subtract from 2, 6. So I'm going to say 2 minus 6. That's a positive 2 and a negative 6. So different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number is negative 6. So you say, okay, this, if I brought the bottom to the top by subtracting, would be x to the power of what? What's going to go here? Are you listening? Come on, people. Okay, it's negative 4. So do you have to move this down? Yes, negative and up, bring it down. So again, this proves to us that when you have a negative at the top, you bring it down. And this is the reason why, my friends. This is the reason why. Does that make sense? That when we divide it, okay, we're left with 4 x's at the bottom. Okay? So if you subtract 2, take away 6, the answer is x to the power of negative 4. That's why when it's negative and up, bring it down. Do you see why this makes sense now? Okay, I heard a few no's. Do you see why it makes sense? Yes, that's what I thought. Okay, let's do one more example, my friends. In the box, of course, because we're going to do some more examples after this. Okay, so now you have x to the power of 4 at the bottom and x to the power of 3 at the top. So at the top, we're going to put x times x times x. At the bottom, how many x's again? Okay, x times x times x times x. Okay, is the top number smaller? If it is smaller, if the top number of the fraction is smaller, that means you're going to end up with a negative exponent, okay, if this is smaller than this. So let's go ahead, cross and make 1. X divided by x is 1. X divided by x is 1, and x divided by x is 1. You're left with what at the bottom of the fraction? You're left with 1x, right? That's x to the power of 1. So at the top, you cross everything out. So you put a 1 over x to the power of positive 1. Or just x, because you see that that is just x. It doesn't have an exponent next to it. Okay, now, if you were to subtract, you say, okay, I'm going to subtract the bottom from the top. I'm going to say 3 take away 4. Okay? 3 take away 4. Different sign subtract. You're going to get a negative what? Negative 1, right? 4 take away 3 is 1. Keep the sign of the bigger number. So this is x to the power of negative 1. Aha! Would you have to rewrite this as a fraction and move it down? Yes, negative and up. Bring it down. So when you bring it down, it is over the number 1. So you say x to the power of positive 1. Okay, so go ahead and get that down.